on this gloriously warm summer day here in Australia, I am going to read to you. So I'm going to be reading the first chapter titled The Multidimensional Human from my new book, Healing, Wholeness and God Realisation. But first, the preface. I present this work to you as a running, active meditation. Rather than attempting to acquire as much information as possible, siphoning these words away in your mind and accumulating facts, I encourage you to go steady and to take the time to measure the resonance of what I share against the knowing which resounds in your own heart. The negative ego is desperate, opposing and critical, seeking opportunities to shut down anything which it does not immediately agree with. So, whilst I encourage you to inquire, to question, and to deeply explore, always searching for the truth within, I also encourage you to quiet the mind and to quiet the negative ego. There is nothing to push against. There is nothing to prove or disprove. The truth simply is. You do not need to wrestle with it or to shout it from the rooftops. You do not need to do battle with truth or on behalf of truth. Simply allow your own soul and your own heart to communicate with you. Ponder, feel, reflect, adopt, adapt, and dismiss as guided and inspired by the knowing, by gnosis itself. My only aim is to guide you closer to yourself, to shine a light upon your path to self-illumination and, ultimately, to ignite a spark which motivates you forward on your journey of evolution and self-actualization. I aim to encourage your deeper embracement of and unfoldment into the mind of God. Partake of that which you are ready to receive now and continue to receive at ever deeper levels as you become ready. A great awakening is nigh. So in part 1, titled Holism and Building Your Energetic Foundations, we kick off with chapter 1, The Multidimensional Human. To understand holism, we must first understand what constitutes the whole. Quite simply, everything is energy. Science, in particular the study of quantum physics, now speaks about how physical matter is just energy slowed right down to such a low vibration that it appears to be solid. It is still moving. Everything is always in motion, always in flux, nothing truly solid, but it appears in a bandwidth which our senses, our energy receptors and interpreters, are able to recognize and convert into data which gives us a sense of a solid, permanent physical reality. But what is this energy that makes up all things and exists even beyond the form world that we can sense? It is life itself. It is the stuff of God. It is consciousness. It is pure potential. And what differentiates this energy, this consciousness, from your own consciousness? Well, not much apart from the illusion of separation and the unique, complex nature of your own consciousness, which enables you to experience yourself as a separate entity, as is desired and designed by life itself. You are equipped with energetic bodies which focus the energy of your being in such a way that you develop a sense of self, quite apart from the rest of the form world. This has been very specifically and intentionally designed so that God may learn of itself in all of its parts. To return to God, the great process of ascension, which I call ascending descension for reasons which are yet to be explored, is the progressive act of seeing through these illusions of separation and experiencing greater and deeper realities of oneness and unity with all that is. I note here my compassionate understanding that the term God is a very loaded one. Everyone has their own presupposed ideas and understandings of God, some of those positive and some of those negative, and so I use the term very deliberately here substituting the big, or capital G, for a lowercase g to encourage a different perspective and experience of God. Rather than God being a singular or separate entity, a robed male figure who dwells in an alternate realm, wielding his great and unique powers, I speak of God not as a separate entity or as a gendered individual, but as the ultimate source of life. The God which I speak of is life itself. It is the creator and the creation. It is the intention, the love, the creativity, and the will which births, fills, and sustains all things. Here, God is not apart from. God is so deeply a part of. It runs through and embodies all things. The term God is interchangeable with terms such as source, spirit, life itself, the universe, and all that is. My use of the term God, which I will indeed alternately use with other endearing terms when referring to the life which runs through all of existence, is an intentional attempt to do away with black and white and perhaps outdated and even harmful thinking which places God outside of the self as an unattainable, vengeful, and jealous being who possesses all power. I seek to inspire you to reclaim the creativity which is innately yours and to know that you are a worthy aspect of God. You empower yourself by consciously and deliberately seeking unity with God, by aspiring to become and to embody more of the God stuff which flows through you. I aim to help you to understand that you are the process of God becoming, of God exploring, of God loving and seeking ultimate harmony with itself, of God seeking knowledge and understanding of itself. We will speak in depth of this process and of your place within divine plan and creativity as we continue on. Quite simply, you are a multidimensional being. You have a physical body, but you also have an emotional body and a mental body, and each of these three lower or form bodies is a structural representation of who and what you are as a soul. The soul body, through its yearning for experience, extends itself and reaches out into the physical world, pulling together and enshrouding itself in form materials so that it can finally touch into and act through a physical body on planet Earth. Your mental body, your emotional body, and your physical body are each, therefore, designed around soul stuff, imprinted with the unique coding and flavor that you carry and embody at that soul level. So, what is the soul? The soul is the permanent part of you, the timeless, ever-present part of you, that still, steady, constant presence that you feel when you quiet the mind and allow your conscious awareness to sink deeply into the heart center. It is the spark of life that ignites your form, the birthplace of your curiosity and your thirst for meaning. It is the part of you that loves. It is love. The soul is content, complete, in place. The soul carries the blueprint, the purpose behind your existence. The reason, the motivation, the intention. The soul is you in all of your stages of development, and it is you at the completion of your development. The soul transcends time and space. The soul is the real you. In fact, the soul is not a part of you. Rather, you are a part and an extension, an expression even, of the soul. You do not have a soul. The soul has you, one of its innumerable embodiments in form. The soul is spirit stuff, and spirit stuff is God stuff. In our religious teachings, we like to view God as a being, an entity who is separate from us, a spiritualized humanoid creature with great powers, building universes and creating and populating our earth with creatures made in his image, because we have so humanized our God that he is, of course, a he. God is unattainable, awe-inspiring, and we creatures are unworthy and undeserving of him. But so great is he that he loves us anyway. He is separate from us. He oversees and overrules us. He is responsible for our experience on the earth, and if we are faithful and good and repentant enough, he will provide us with a fulfilling and wholesome life, with the promise of eternal bliss in a heaven designed specifically for the righteous. We are separate from our God. We are less than our God. We must fear our God and do all in our power to keep him pleased and happy with us. For not only is our God a God of such greatness that he loves us despite our shortcomings, despite our humanness, which, by the way, he created, he is also a jealous and vengeful God who hates hypocrites. Oh, the hypocrisy. And a perfect human life is one that is solely and squarely focused on appeasing his grand ego, built to match his grand love. If such a God existed, he would surely be insulted by his creatures' low opinion of him. Such a God would surely be incapable of such feelings as jealousy and vengeance and hatred. Such a God would surely view all of his creations as worthy of his love, as, in fact, an extension and an expression of his love. Each would be bestowed with this love, and he would surely rejoice at our unity and our unconditional love of each other. The things which separate us here on the ground would surely not exist in the mind of such a God. Our bickering and our separation, all of our differences that we so enjoy emphasizing and focusing on, would not exist in his eyes. All would be loved and welcomed by this God who is free of ego and truly unconditional in his love. This teaching and expression of love is surely the intended role of religion and religious organizations on this earth, to propagate and seed such love, God's love in his earthly creatures, to be the voice of unity, of tolerance, and of acceptance, to seek and to emphasize that which binds us rather than to focus upon that which separates us. If such a God existed, and if such a God were capable of such feelings as remorse and sorrow, his almighty heart would surely break at the separation, the judgment, the fear, and the wars perpetrated in his name. His heart would break at witnessing us, his beloved children, fight amongst ourselves as we try to prove that our God is the true or the right God. Are we not all children of God? Is God not evidenced in our very existence? Are we not one? Are we not to design and build our love, our moral character, our personality, our mind, our heart, and our bodies so that we are indeed the embodiment, the expression of the God love which was so powerful and so unconditional that it spawned all of existence into being? Is it not our God-given goal to express godliness to the best of our ability and to seek new ways to refine our expression of this godliness? Could it be, in fact, that God is an energy, a frequency, a surge of unrelenting creativity? Could it be that God is, in fact, life itself? Consciousness? Love itself? Could God be the life force that flows through all things in creation? All universes, all planets, all kingdoms, all elements, all creatures, including humans? Could it be that God is a great creative surge of energy exploring itself through physical form? Could it be that God is not a being separate from us, outside of us, unattainable, but is instead expressing through us, exploring love through us, understanding life through us? Could God be life in love? Life and love in motion? God is the source of all life because God is life itself. And God is exploring, unpacking, and understanding itself through its creations, just as you could claim to be exploring yourself through every cell in your body. You draw those cells to you, draw those cells around you so that you can move, explore, unpack, understand and learn about all the different ways that you can love and be loved. We are one with God. We are expressions of God, and our mission as a part of God is to go forth and have experience, and through this experience contribute to God's exploration of itself. Our mission is to unpack the bit of God stuff that we are embodying, have experience through it, come to know it, and then return it to God, transformed, explored, fulfilled, refined, and perfected. We'll talk about perfection later. It is not what you believe it to be. We don't have a God. God has us, has all of creation. And it is our mission, our purpose, our function to explore the God within and ultimately to return to this God within. We are God stuff in motion, God stuff in practice, God stuff in process. The soul that you are an extension and expression of is the part of you that knows this. It is the part of you that received the initial instruction to go forth and have experience. God broke itself down into smaller and smaller pieces so that each piece, each part, could be explored and understood. In the same way, you can break your own body down into smaller and smaller parts and unpack the experience on various levels. You are a complete entity, then you are the various systems within your body, then you are the organs, then you are the cells, then you are the organelles, then you are the atoms and the molecules, and down into the smallest parts of yourself. Through your existence as the entity that you are, each part of you is exploring and having its existence, learning how to combine and to work in harmony with each other part in order to create more and more complex functioning systems. So it is with God. There is the great sweeping entity that is life itself, and then life itself is broken down into various spheres and realms of consciousness, of energy, which are then further broken down into more refined parts, which eventually begin to express as physical matter, as measurable energy, as universes, as planets, as kingdoms, and as creatures, all possessing consciousness. In an energetic sense, before we reach the levels of physical, material expression, the soul is a specialized expression of this God stuff. There are many tiers existing above the soul, for example, the oversoul, the monad, and up into less and less specified energetic bodies until unity with God is once again achieved. But the soul, for all intents and purposes, is closer in its expression to God than your mental, emotional, and physical bodies. Just as a system in the body, say the nervous system, is closer in its expression, more complete in its combination of complexities, to the whole body than the nucleus in one of the cells in one of your neurons is. The cell in that neuron performs its function best and contributes to the health of the whole when it takes its instruction from the neuron of which it is a part, which takes its instruction from the nervous system, which takes its instruction from the entire entity, which takes its instruction from the soul. All the way in and all the way out, all parts are working together. There are greater systems and bodies that we are a part of, from which we can be receiving instruction. There is always something greater than us which is closer to God, or life itself, which is receiving instruction from something greater than itself, and on and on. The aim of the game is to contribute to the overall health, vitality, and wholeness of the greater entity of which we are a part. like a cell in the body performing its proper function so that the organ and then the system and then the entire entity can thrive. No part exists in isolation. All parts are one, and the organism thrives when all parts are in place and working together. Now, we don't absolutely have to take instruction from closer to God parts of us. We have free will, and we can do with it whatever we please. We can go forth and have any experience that we desire. We can be a naughty cell in the body which goes off and does its own thing, not thinking about the organs or the system that it is a part of. We call these cells cancer cells. Such is our right, and such is the choice that many human creatures are making. Unity with God does not leave such individuals. God does not withdraw its love from any part of itself. And the experiences had by such individuals are, in fact, integrated by God as learning. God learns through all experiences, be them harmonious or harmful, just as the body explores and considers all potentials and possibilities as avenues of growth and evolution. Ultimately, however, the body cannot thrive when riddled with cancerous cells. The return to God, or the surrender of the immediate self to a part of the self which is closer in nature to God, is an evolutionary process. It comes about as the result of the instruction to go forth and have experience. To go forth and have experience can be a thrilling and deeply satisfying thing. To find oneself in the great playground of planet Earth, equipped with free will, with a mind which thinks, with an emotional body possessing an incredible capacity for feeling, and with a physical body which moves freely through space, is an enticing opportunity rich with potential and endless possibilities. Like a child in a candy shop with a free pass to eat as much of whatever they'd like, a great and passionate flurry initially takes place. That young, fresh soul, reaching into the form world through its various bodies, intently takes part in life, going unconscious and deeply immersing itself in the human experience. There is much to do, let us be on with it. All sorts of states of being and conditions are sought out. Emotional complexities and extremes are swallowed whole. All ends and extremes of the various spectrums are explored. Healthy bodies, unhealthy bodies, intelligence, simplicity, ability, disability, male bodies, female bodies, riches, poverty, gains, loss, love, fear, power, servitude, the arts, the sciences, all the various cultures and religions, so much experience to be had. And like the child in that candy store, a great many of these experiences are gobbled up. But eventually, experience alone ceases to be fulfilling. Eventually, that child begins to grow up and realizes that while eating candy can be fun, it's not necessarily healthy. That child becomes aware that there is a whole world outside of the candy store and begins to yearn to truly contribute something to that world rather than just devouring everything in its path, and to become healthy. Eventually, that child decides to leave the candy store and begins to search for the conditions which allow it to thrive. The child becomes aware of a still, quiet voice which whispers and guides that child into consciousness. The child becomes aware of purpose and seeks to fulfill that purpose. As this awakening child begins to deliberately direct and align its activities with its sensed purpose, a great wealth of wisdom and love is accumulated, and the heart begins to awaken with a yearning and desire to serve something greater than itself, to give something back. Some call this an existential crisis, for it can indeed be quite a shock to find oneself conscious with no clear direction. But I call it the beginnings of the Great Awakening, or the soul merge. The merging of the human self with the soul moving into and occupying the human creature. When this soul merge is initiated, you begin to become conscious of higher levels of the self, of your unity and oneness with all things, and God begins to awaken in your consciousness and your conscience. Rather than focusing on self-gratification and immediate satisfaction, you begin to consider what you can give back. How can you take the result of your experience and turn it into something that others can benefit from? How can you become a healthy cell in the body of God? What is your place in the body of God? What is God? What is life? What are you and what is your purpose, your meaning? When you begin to ask these questions, you begin to turn the heart and the mind in the direction of God. You open your heart and your mind to be impressed upon by the soul, which is where the blueprint for your existence is held. As you give yourself over to this divine purpose, your bodies change. And then our next chapter is how the soul builds its bodies, which we'll get back to later.